Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're looking at The Little Mermaid, the new Rob Marshall feature from Disney. Also, a very prominent live action adaptation. I think if you're an adult listening to a podcast on your phone in 2023, you know that, and I don't need to tell you. We're also going to look at Reality. It's an HBO film, just came out Monday, late Monday evening. Weird time to premiere a movie. It's like 85 minutes. It is a surprisingly good little feature, almost like an experimental docu-drama about reality winner, who is an NSA whistleblower who leaked some content, and the FBI came and found her. Stick around for that. It's actually really cool. I'm surprised at how cool that was. We're going to talk about Khan. It happened again. We're going to go over it. Andy's got some hot details for us. I'm excited to see what he's bringing to the table. And before we get to all that, we need to talk about the news. Our first story this week, Moviepass is back. I don't believe it, Andy. What are the odds?
Somehow Moviepass returned.
Yes. A la Emperor Palpatine. Moviepass is back. We talked about this last week. This was kind of coming back into the fold. We talked about Moviepass in the past on the show. Moviepass was an exciting, very fleeting social experiment where people could get a Moviepass card and go see a movie anywhere they wanted in the United States. This came out, right around the beginning of COVID? End of COVID, I think this was a thing? No, before COVID.
It was like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, and it was a couple years before COVID, and it quickly burned out because they had some hot pricing model that it was not affordable for them. It didn't work out. Company went under, but now it's back. Kinda. What is this about, Andy?
So when Moviepass first kind of burst on the scene a few years ago, it was offering $10 a month for unlimited films. This was way too good to be true, and it lasted for about 9 months before they ran out of money, went bankrupt, and the original founder, bought the rights back and is now releasing it. And so they've come out with 4 pricing models, which are much more reasonable and sustainable. The very basic one is $10 a month, and you can see anywhere from 1 to 3 movies. We're not real sure what that means. Maybe it depends on format. And then $20, $30, and $40 a month. $40 a month was basically unlimited. Probably won't get a whole lot of people doing that one. And you earn credits as you go to things. That's all we know. We don't have a huge amount of details, but it was released over the Memorial Day weekend.
If you're watching the Facebook live stream right now, I've got the visuals up for these 4 subscription tiers they have. From what it's worth, they range from $10 to $40 a month. They range from being able to see 1 to 3 movies a month on the basic tier to 30 movies a month, 1 per day. There's a credit system. I don't really understand. I'm sure if you go to their website, you can learn more about it. But from what it's worth, I'm a little surprised at how not bad this offering is. In comparison to what Cinemark is doing with their Cinemark Rewards program, or AMC does with their Stubs program. The idea of paying a low cost every month to hopefully see more movies than you would see if you were just buying tickets outright is not a bad model. And in a way, the reason AMC Stubs and Cinemark Rewards exist is because of pressure from Moviepass. In 2017, those companies vehemently wanted nothing to do with Moviepass. I'm a little surprised they're still involved at all, but reportedly you can see features via Moviepass at AMC and Cinemark. Those are things you can do. I'd imagine the credits count towards when you see your movie, right? If you go see Friday evening versus Sunday matinee, that'll make a difference. But for what it's worth, if you're paying $10 a month and you're getting 3 films, that's worth it. Or if you do your $40 a month for the pro and you're some freak shut-in that goes and sees a film every day or something, or I don't know, maybe senior citizens that often go to the theater, right? Because they need something to do, whatever your reasons are. Both of those price points seem pretty attractive, I think, to me, even though I'd be wary of the brand just because of their history,
Yeah, I think just looking at this, even the very basic one, $10 a month, it's a deal. If you see 3 movies in a month, you've definitely earned your money back. That would cost you at least $30 to $50 just for the tickets. So it's definitely somewhat of a deal. And then I'm sure there's some people where it might really work for.
Andy, are you going to subscribe to Moviepass? When are you getting your card?
No, I'm already subscribed to Cinemark's subscription, which is $8-9 a month. So they already got me. And that was the one thing that Moviepass did do. It forced all these chains to create subscription services. And that's the other thing. It's coming into this environment having to compete with is it created its own competition inadvertently.
Yeah. Keep it here on Off Script for more from Moviepass. We'll keep a tab on it, but neither of us are getting it. I'm in the same boat as Andy. We're in the pocket of big movies. Our next story, a quick one here. How to Train Your Dragon's live action adaptation finds its hiccup and Astrid. If you haven't kept up with this, DreamWorks is pursuing Disney's live action adaptation model. It's been very profitable for them, and they've decided they're going to start adapting their CGI features, or at least that's the one they're starting with, How to Train Your Dragon. Fine one to pick, directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, came out in 2009, I think the first one came out, 2010. They've made a few sequels, and now they've got their leads, Hiccup and Astrid. And while I don't know the girl who's going to be playing Astrid, which is terrible, what is her name?
Nico Parker.
Nico Parker. I do know the guy playing Hiccup, Mason Thames, because he is the lead of The Black Phone, which was a very successful horror property. And any hot takes on Disney's strategy here? The picks? What do you think? Disney's DreamWorks strategy, excuse me.
Yeah, I think these are great picks. Mason Thames was great in The Black Phone, which we saw last summer, I think. And then Nico Parker was actually most recently seen in The Last of Us. She plays the daughter of the main character. And she's not in the show for very long, but she's got some really powerful scenes throughout. She solid, incredible actress. So I think these are really solid pictures, and it'll be interesting to see what DreamWorks does, if they just do like a paint by number, do it exactly what they did before, or if they try to write a different kind of script, something that works better in film than animation.
They've got, a good bench working on it. For what it's worth, Dean DeBlois, who co-wrote and co-directed the original film, is doing this one. He's writing and directing this one. He also wrote and directed, I think, 2 and 3. So, you literally have the same guy, which I think is probably the best possible scenario to make this work. This was actually a frustration of mine in our Little Mermaid review coming up in just a couple of minutes after our next story. But for what it's worth, I think you've got, you got a strong team to put it together. I just don't know if people will care. I'm imagining watching the trailer for live action How to Train Your Dragon and feeling like, didn't they just do those? Because, Little Mermaid came out in 89 and getting a remake in 2023. Bit more distance than 2009 and 2023, but we'll see. Keep it here on Off Script for more. One more story from the box office this week. Little Mermaid swims to a $118.6 million Memorial Day debut. Definitely a big win for Disney's live action department, though I hear it might be struggling overseas. Have you heard this?
Yes, I have. This is, like Zach said, big hit here at home. Very familiar, very American property. It opened to a huge $2 million in China. American films don't translate particularly well in China at all, and we don't get a lot of our films over there, because of censorship to begin with. But a lot of cultural things just don't transfer very well. Fast X actually is doing good business in China, but Little Mermaid, not so much.
Yeah, there's not really a good reason for it. The one reason that I think people are pointing at, I haven't seen how this all works, but it feels thin, and it concerns me that this may actually be a big part of the reason the movie's doing poorly. But fundamentally, it's because of the recasting of Ariel. Apparently, there's been some big social media campaign in China, and people really don't like it. It seems hard to believe that would be a reason it would drag a film down, especially in a market as big as China. But I don't have any other reasons to point at. That's the one the Hollywood Reporter's given me, and I'm just reporting it here on the show. What do you think, Andy? That feels thin to me, but it's a CGI heavy feature. Those typically play really well overseas. Any reasons?
It feels a little thin. I don't know if it's so much that it's backlash over there as much as the fact that there was just controversy around the film at all has turned people off. But also, again, it's very Americanized. It's very Western, just the whole prince and princess kind of setup. And so it's a big cultural difference in Chinese audiences just aren't very interested.
One more story from the box office this week. Universal's Fast X slides into number 2 as it crosses the $500 million mark. They're going to make those movies forever. They're never going to stop making Fast and Furious
It's
movies.
so crazy. It had a 66% drop off. It domestically made $23 million over the weekend. But it's, again, like you said, crossed $500 million. internationally, and then that's you just can't. That's a huge amount of money still. So yeah, they're gonna keep making them.
Yeah. Well, keep it here on off script for more from the box office. For now, we need to move into our first feature. I'm going to be taking the summary on this one, so please excuse my clumsy delivery. The movie is Little Mermaid. So Little Mermaid is a live-action remake of the 1989 beloved animated classic from Disney Studios. The original film was written, directed by Ron Clements and Howard Musker. John Musker, excuse me, two very prominent creatives at Disney that are fundamentally responsible for the Disney Renaissance. I'll explain what that is in a second. But for the film, The Little Mermaid is the story of Ariel, one of King Triton's 7 daughters, the royal ruler of the seas, who is frustrated with her life. Ariel is frustrated that she has to live below the waves, and there's all these exciting things happening just above the surface, right? Boats and ships crossing the ocean, and a handsome young prince named Eric, on one in particular, who she finds a fancy for one night during a fireworks show. But she strikes a Faustian bargain with a sea witch, Ursula, to sacrifice her voice in order to grow legs, go on land, meet Eric, and hopefully forge the love of her life. And she, in just 3 days' time, it's quite the deal. Without a voice, will Ariel be able to rise to the challenge, become human, and hopefully embrace the life she wants, or will she be trapped to a life of being a princess below the waves? The movie is The Little Mermaid. It's about 2.5 hours long. Andy, what'd you think?
So overall, I didn't really like it, but there's a lot that does work there. I like half of it. Like there's things that work, and then there's a lot that doesn't. There's a lot of filler. I think just simply trimming up the film, like it's 2 hours 15 minutes, way too long for a kids feature. But if you kind of trim some of that down, I think it would work better. But there are some highlights. There are some good moments. Some of the music, some of the visuals are really great. But it just goes on forever. The Longest Mermaid. That's what I would call it.
Yes. I've got a tragically lukewarm take on this movie. I really do. It's not a good take. It's a bad take. I know it's a bad take because it's the same take I have on most of these live action features. But I'm going to save that for the end. I just want to take a minute and talk about what works in this movie, because fundamentally, Little Mermaid live action remake uses every element of what is successful about the first movie. And the Little Mermaid came out in 1989. And for the people who don't remember, it fundamentally started what is the Disney Renaissance, that thing I mentioned in the intro. In the 80s, Disney is starting to flounder with their animated department. They don't really have direction. Walt Disney is dead and gone. They need somewhere to go. And CEO Michael Eisner figures, hey, you know what? Maybe we can start buying old properties just like Disney did when he bought the rights to Snow White and he bought the rights to Winnie the Pooh and bought the rights to Mary Poppins. Maybe we can take old stories and adapt them into something that kids might like. And with the help of Ron Clements and John Musker, they produced The Little Mermaid in 1989, which immediately kicks off a string of very memorable Disney features. I mean, you can rattle them off in your head, right? Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Hercules. These are movies that come out of, them, basically, taking the studio in a bold new direction. And part of the reason that works is because Little Mermaid is a very tight 90-minute feature, that has a really solid plot all the way through. You've got your young, very likable lead protagonist. So you got your fun underwater setting and her overbearing father. You got the prince, who they kind of dance back and forth a couple times where they actually meet. The sea witch, who takes her voice. The challenge of trying to get to know him and hopefully get him to fall in love with you through all of Act 2. The big Act 3 finale. If you've seen the movie, you know everything that happens. And when Disney does a live action remake, they either go with exactly what worked before, or they wander off a little bit and go in a different direction, like Mary Poppins Returns or Cruella, which is actually pretty well received. This movie does the former. It follows the original to the letter. I thought that extra half hour in the runtime would, I don't know, expand it or grow it. And it doesn't really do a whole lot. It's just longer because it can't move as fast as animation can. They're people, right? They gotta, things just move a little slower. And there's a couple extra songs, 3 extra songs to be specific. Andy, when was the last time you saw the original?
I don't remember. This was actually the first movie I ever saw in a theater, though.
Really?
That.
Oh my God! Well, that's
1989.
That's a great throwback. Yeah, and here we are, all the way back here. I'm sure it played great in a theater. Yeah, like I think this movie has like everything good about the original one in here. Like it's actually great start. Like you've got you open on Eric, which is cool. Open above the sea, and then he loses something over the side of the boat as it tumbles down. You get your opening credits. Ariel finds it with Flounder. She's collecting stuff because she's got her grotto of like human things that she keeps and sings about because it's very heartfelt to her. Like Dad doesn't like it. He's got a little history with the old world of humans, and he wants nothing to do with them. Like all that stuff plays really well. Like all of that works fantastic. Ursula the Sea Witch, played by Melissa McCarthy, is not bad. And I should say really quick while I'm thinking about it, the standout performance here is 100% Halle Bailey. The rumors are true. The critics are correct. Like not only is she singing great, like she's probably the best part of this movie. Melissa McCarthy's fine. She gets a couple good lines off. Honestly, better than I thought she would be as Ursula. And of course, there's Jonah Hauer-King, who plays Eric, who I'm not familiar with what he's been in previous, but he's a little lukewarm. He's a little fine in this movie. Like he's not great. Eric's a bit of an airhead anyway, so I think that's like to be expected. He's okay.
Yeah, our cast is pretty solid. Halle Bailey is great. She has an incredible voice. Definitely deserves this role. Javier Bardem as King Triton is good. He's not in the movie enough. He kind of had a larger role, I feel, or more scenes. Melissa McCarthy did do better as Ursula than I kind of gave her credit for, but I also feel like she's restrained because she's basically just mimicking the performance from the anime. I mean, she does the poor unfortunate, so like it's all the lines, and that's one of the problems with these. Like you know what's coming, and you're like, oh, here's the song, here's the line, here's the next line. So it would have been interesting to see what she could have done, just given more room to kind of be herself. Then we also have the voice talents of David Diggs as the crab Sebastian, Jacob Tremblay as Flounder, and Aquafina as Scuttle the seagull. They're actually in the movie quite a bit. They're Ariel's friends, of course, reprise roles from the animated bit. Aquafina is a little annoying in this movie. She's got that grating, raspy voice, and she's got the terrible Lin-Manuel Miranda song.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention, there's 3 new songs in this feature. None of them are half as good as the original work. And all the original songs hit so good, man. Part of Your World is excellent. Like it was great in the old one. It's great in this one. Like goes big at the end. Fantastic. Poor Unfortunate Souls, charming, nefarious. Love it. Eric's weird I Want song, Uncharted Waters, has a good chorus, but like weak in the open. Like as soon as you see him start singing, you're like, oh no.
You need to cut him out. We'll cut all his scenes. Just about
Eric and I Want song. Yeah. I don't recall. Ariel's actually got a decent one about the challenges of walking for the first time. It's okay. It's actually shot better than it's sung, I think. And Aquafina's got a song called Scuttlebutt, which is like, it's rough, dude. It's fine. I think if you're like, and that's worth mentioning here. Obviously, this is a children's film made for kids. Like, I think if you're a kid and you've never seen the original, like, you'll probably think this is good stuff. Like, it's surprisingly more colorful than I think a lot of these Disney live actions tend to be. It's not quite as dark, which is good. In those early trailers, I was like, there's not enough light. I can't see anything. So I'm glad they tuned it up a little bit. I think everything works above and below the waves. The CGI isn't even that bad. Like, I really wanted to hammer like some of the water effects, because after seeing something like, I don't know, Avatar 2, where they actually like filmed in water tanks, like it's a little phony watching a movie shot on green screens and be like, they're underwater. But like, it's no worse than something like Ant-Man. Like if anything, it might play better because you just, I don't know, you don't mind too much. Your brain doesn't care too much about them not really being, like, it's fine. Like overall, like I think the experience of this movie is comparable to watching the original. I really do, and like I think very highly of the original. I think this one's right up there with it. Like I don't think it's a bad feature.
It's just so long. So the poor the first hour is good. The first hour was my favorite. That's where we get some of the classic songs. You get the falling out between Ariel and King Triton, and the first hour ends with Ursula, Melissa McCarthy's Poor Unfortunate Souls. That's a great first hour, but then it should wrap up in like another half hour, and there's another 75 minutes, and it feels like the movie just keeps starting over because it's like it takes so long for Ariel to lose her voice. Then she finally gets on land. It seems it is like a whole new movie when she's on land because it's literal fish out of water. There's a weird scene where they're like in this like marketplace, and I was like, this is for when you go to Disney so they can recreate this at Disney.
I thought the same thing. It's like, this looks like a Mandalorian set that they were like, here, put a red scarf on this thing, and yeah, well this will be great. Like, yeah.
No, and it's a new song, so they'll sing the new song when you're in line at Disney or whatever the Disney parade is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just way too long. I think if they would have trimmed it down, like Eric doesn't need all these extra scenes. There's the thing about like, oh, you're gonna be king one day, and you need to be more careful. No more going out on the ships for you. Yeah, he's got a backstory that can just go. We don't need it. It's all about Ariel. But yeah, the pacing is so long. I heard a conspiracy theory that these remakes are really long because they can make good babysitting options to put your kid in front of it for 2.5 hours instead of 85 minutes.
You can sneak in a great nap at 2.5 hours, like with your kid over there eating popcorn. Now, a couple other things I wanted to say that I like about this before I move on to like what I struggled with, if I haven't gotten there already. Diversity needs to be celebrated in this movie. Shockingly diverse cast. Like, I think people might have just seen Halle Bailey and been like, Black Ariel, how could they? Which is ridiculous. That like the worst take in 2023. But everybody in this movie is like stunningly like spread out, and I think that's a really good thing. Like, we've got a marketplace full of people from all over the world. We've got a queen who's black in this movie, even though Eric is notably white. Like, that stuff plays really good, and that's a great influence on kids. Like, it really is. Like, that's a good thing. That is a good thing to see in cinema. I'm a fan. Well done. Like, good choice. And like, for what it's worth, like, yeah, it is long, I think, but it also feels grand. I feel like if I was a kid watching this, like, by the time Ariel gets out of the water onto land, you're like, oh my God, this is like the biggest, it's like Lord of the Rings. Like, it's such a big, epic thing. Like, it feels very large in scale because we're jumping from setting to setting. We've got a witch that comes in like 35 minutes into the feature. Like, it feels very large, like, and it feels very encompassing. And I think I think it even tugs at the heartstrings in the right places. It's surprisingly emotional when Javier Bardem is like having a really sincere conversation with his daughter Ariel. Like, he's great in this movie for his few scenes and is like very chill emoting. Like, I think he comes across really well. Like, I think all that plays really good. It's emotional, it's big, it's diverse, like, good stuff.
I think part of my loss of immersion. So I saw this at the Coyote Drive-In in Fort Worth. And I was kind of
recommend real quick, like Coyote Drive-In, because I haven't been. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's really cool because they have like an eating area with like a couple of food trucks and concessions, and then like the screens are elsewhere. You tune in with your car. It was a great little place just outside of downtown Fort Worth. But we were kind of far back, and so I couldn't get a lot of like the detail. And it's like there's cars coming in and out, there's kids running around, like it's kind of loses like I wanted to be a lot closer when the Ursula song came on because I just couldn't make out a lot of the visuals.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we went and saw it at Alamo Drafthouse. Christine ordered food during Under the Sea. Which, like, it was funny to me because during like it's a kids movie. Like, I feel like the musical bits would be the parts you pay attention to. Like, but we've seen the movie; it's the same song, right? And honestly, like, I do think some of those songs suffer more in live action because you don't have like, you know, the extremely vibrant color palette of like an animated feature of like ink on glass. And this movie does a fine job like of getting over that way. I think for the kids in the audience that were with us, like, they had a great time. It's great. So I think, like, in that way, I think The Little Mermaid is fine live action adaptation, one of their better ones. But like, what I wanted to get at, what I've been hinting at since we started this, is this kind of fatigue I'm really getting with these live action adaptations. Like, I just feel like every time I watch them, I'm thinking I'm going to be bored while I'm watching this, and then I inevitably am, because Disney can't decide whether or not they want to make it exactly the way the other one was, or they want to wander off in a different direction. And wandering off is a lot more creative, and it's a lot more engrossing for older audiences that have seen the originals. But sticking to the old ones works really good selling tickets, right? Like, I get it. You got a bottom line. You're a business. You got to make money. So just like Beauty and the Beast, they were like, we're just going to make the same damn movie. And like, it's almost like frustratingly to a fault at times in the movie. Like Sebastian will make the same joke, the same like offhanded line, throwaway line, right? He'll say the same thing again, and it'll be in the same way, and the cut will be the same. And it's like, man, it's so similar to the old one. Like it reminded me of like that Psycho shot-for-shot remake starring Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Like it's so close, you know, and that really did frustrate me. Like that leads to boredom for somebody like me, and that sucks. You don't want that when you're watching one of these movies.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was, like you said, the songs are coming, the lines are coming, I mean, that's the thing. When you can guess the dialogue before it happens, it's kind of just like, well, I already know exactly what's coming, and it's not very exciting. But again, I'm not the target audience. This is aimed at children, not 40-year-old men.
Of course. And ultimately, like, I think that was the thing I wandered away from this thinking, like, while I enjoyed it, like, I can't help but feel like the original Little Mermaid, like, was an important movie for Disney. It was really important. Like, not only because it told a story really well about something really sincere and pulled an emotion from the audience that they weren't normally getting, but also because, like, it fundamentally was a crucial step in turning around, like, a studio that was beginning to decline, like, in one way or another. And like that happened from this incredible like blaze of creativity that came out of like a team of individuals who were like painting on glass slates and putting them under a camera and sliding them around and adding ADR later and music and being like, yeah, I think this will work, and like just cobbling a script together. And like all of that comes from like creatives that are really challenged and are pressured like coal in an oven to turn into a diamond. And that's what they made, like something so incredible that stood the test of time. And in a weird way, like it's strange to watch the remake and feel so little of that here, because it's not made by a team of people who are being squeezed like down to their last, I don't know, brain cell. Like it's made by like a team of individuals who are like copying off somebody else's homework. And like that kind of bums me out, as an old person who's not supposed to be watching these movies. Like it bums me out, and like I miss that blaze of passion that like I think those old movies had. These remakes like fundamentally lack them, and like. What if that's the Disney magic? You know what I mean? What if that's secretly the thing that has built Disney into the company they are? Like, and if these movies don't have that, I wish some did, Maybe we'll get that in Elemental next week. Maybe the Pixar Acquire was a big step for Disney. Like that was a big one, right? Like, in those movies pull at your heartstrings like a way a lot of old features did. Maybe we'll get the live action Up remake soon, Like, I don't know, but it just bummed me out. It's the one thing about this movie. Like, I really wish there was a way to tweak my brain and forget the old one or something, because I can't. And this one I think didn't have that, and it bummed me out. Any other thoughts on this for recommendations, Andy?
Right. Well, just to comment on that, yeah, like I said, I'm fine with them doing a remake, but like rewrite the script. Like think of live action, not because what works in a live action film is different from what works in animation. You can, update it in a lot of ways. The dialogue, the issues. It's supposed to be a coming of age story. And it's just like you're not even trying. Like I said, you're copying someone else's homework, your own, or it's like you turn in the same report 3 years later for a different class. And it's just bland and uninteresting.
Yeah, there was an old science project in my high school growing up that every chemistry class would do coming through. It was like make a diorama kind of thing, really simple. And Christine did it when we were going through high school. And 2 years later, when her brother came through, he was like, "Hey, can I just use your diorama?" And she was like, "Sure." So he dusted it off, took it to class, got a B+. Great. Like, and he got the satisfaction of knowing that like he did something with very little effort, like to get a great result, and like, way to go, you've outsmarted the system. But like, I really would have liked to have seen what his diorama could have been. You know what I mean? And like, that's how I feel about the Little Mermaid remake. Like, great, like, well done. Like A+ completion grade. You're gonna make a ton of money on it, but I don't know. Like, I'm too old for Disney. I want more. that's my hot take on the Little Mermaid. Andy, would you recommend the Little Mermaid?
I would say if you're interested in it, I would say probably the best experience is going to be in the theater with like the big sound, the big visuals. That's going to work way better in the theater than at home. So if you are interested, and again, it's a kids movie. If you have young ones, definitely for you. If you're a little on the fence, I would say skip it or save it for streaming.
I'm kind of in the same I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I think it's good. If you got kids, take them to see Little Mermaid. Especially, I haven't seen the old one. Like, if you like the old one, I think you'll like this one. Like, it's surprisingly emotional. Like, in moments, exactly when it needs to be, just like the old one did. Like, it's good. Would recommend. I want to make that clear in case anybody comes and haunts me later in my life and says you thought the Little Mermaid sucked. No, I didn't. I think it's good. I think it's just as good as the original. I just wanted a little more, like, yeah. And if you're skeptical, like, it'll be on Disney Plus in 90 days, like, and you can watch it all you want. You can watch it, you double feature it with the old one. You can see all the things that are exactly the same. You'll love it. I know I would. And that's The Little Mermaid from Disney. Now, much more important things to move on to. Andy, what are we talking about next?
It's time for the death of cinema. So the Cannes Film Festival, the Cannes Film Festival in France, which is an annual major film festival, happens every year, just wrapped up, and we're going to be talking about a few films that rose to the top that are going to be kind of in Oscar contention in the fall that you probably haven't heard of, but we want to get into because things like Killers of the Flower Moon you already know are coming, Asteroid City, these kind of bigger names. But we're going to talk about a few here. Well, we're going to start off with May December, which is a new film starring Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. This was purchased by Netflix, so they'll be pushing it for awards. This Natalie Portman plays an actress who's playing Julianne Moore's character, and she's going to visit her to see her to just learn about her. She's doing actor research with this older person. And the reason it's called May December is that Julianne Moore's character is infamous, and her story is based on the Mary Kay Letourneau story, loosely based on that same situation. If you don't know, Mary Kay Letourneau was a teacher in the late 90s who had a inappropriate relationship with one of her sixth grade students. She went to prison for 7 years. She got out. They got married. Very strange, but that's Julianne Moore's character is based on that story, and Natalie Portman is an actor doing research for like a movie about this. So it's very meta, and that's why it's called May December. So it's like a hot subject, and there's a lot of buzz about this movie. What do you think about this, Zach?
I did not know that story, so I appreciate you sharing it on the podcast. That sounds like a great screenplay. Like, just damn, man. Like, yeah, if somebody's elevator pitching that to me, it's like, oh yeah, Natalie Portman's gonna play Julianne Moore. She's falling around with a notepad, and I was like, okay. It's like Julianne Moore's teacher did this horrible thing. Like, oh, hold on. Like, ooh, that sounds hot. All right, yeah, great. Like, I think that could be neat. Like, it sounds scandalous. Natalie Portman's great. Love Julianne Moore. Like, all right. What I want to know about, because you got it on the outline here, but I've heard of this a couple times in rumblings on film Twitter. What is Zone of Interest? What is this movie?
Zone of Interest was the Grand Prix winner, which is kind of like second place at Cannes. And it is it was a film by an English director, but it's in German, and it's about a family. It's weird. It's about the Holocaust, but it's not about the victims. It's actually about people in charge. It's a film about this family who basically lives next to Auschwitz and is trying to build their ideal life while this horrible thing is happening next door. And I mean, it's difficult subject matter as you can tell. But I've heard a lot of buzz. Hang on, trying to see who the director is.
Yeah,
Jonathan Glazer, who previously did Under the Skin. Hasn't made a movie in 10 years. And this is only his fourth film, but yeah, this has gotten a lot of buzz. Particularly the lead actress Sandra Hüller is both in this and the other film we're going to talk about that won the Palme d'Or. But it's going to be a heavy thing. We don't know too much about it other than it's a story about a family trying to build their ideal life right
Another
next to a concentration camp.
Yeah, another killer idea. I know it's based on a book by Martin Ames, I think, and shout out to Sandra Hüller for being like double billed here for the two big winners for Cannes. But on Jonathan Glazer, like nothing. Bold Cinema is littered with directors who made something weird and then stepped out of the limelight for like a decade. And you never know what they're coming back with, right? Like, is it going to be fire? Is it going to be trash? Anything could happen. But Zone of Interest clearly is generating some serious buzz at Cannes. I'm excited to see it. And like I said, I've just heard rumblings on Twitter. I've seen a couple memes or a couple things where people are like, we got to talk about this movie. Like, it's great. Like, I'm really excited to see what that's about.
And I didn't realize I've seen two of his other films, Birth and Sexy Beast. Sexy Beast has an incredible performance.
Ray Stevenson, right?
He's in that, but he's not a. Oh, I can't remember.
Who's the guy? I thought that was him. Who am I thinking of? I don't know. Funny story about Sexy Beast, in case, I don't know if you're Googling it, but I had a buddy in college, film school, who gave me a USB drive with a bunch of movies he pirated. He was like, must watches. And I'd never heard of any of them. And that one was on there. And I never watched it. Like,
Ben Kingsley, that's who it is.
Ben Kingsley, excuse me. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I was never really attracted to that idea. Maybe we should watch it for the podcast at some point.
Ben Kingsley's like an out of control gangster.
Love it.
It's so great.
Love an out of control gangster movie.
Good. The other film, the big winner, Palme d'Or winner, was a film called Anatomy of a Fall. And all I know about this, the tagline is a woman is suspected of her husband's murder, and their blind son faces a moral dilemma as the sole witness. Again, starring Sandra Hüller, who I guess plays the woman who's an author trying to defend herself in this murder. I don't know too much about this, but again, it was the big winner. Other big winners include Parasite, Titan, last year's Triangle of Sadness. So it's in that vein of films.
Man, I gotta see what this movie is about. Like another solid screenplay idea. Feels a little looser than the other two, right? Not quite as concrete. A murder mystery starring a blind witness who's maybe got an axe to grind in regards to the victim and perpetrator. But for Sandra Hüller, like, dude, she better watch out. If she's not careful, she can come over to Hollywood and get Noomi replaced. You're going to do like two or three movies that are a big deal, and then you're just going to slip back out of the limelight. And I don't know why that happened to Noomi replaced. Yeah. God love her. Hopefully Sandra Hüller has a prominent career going forward, because like being in two of these back to back in the same year, oof. Like, God. How many actors and actresses would die for that kind of opportunity? Like, way to go. So yeah, that's Cannes. I mean, anything else exciting from Cannes? Like, I wish I'd kept up with it better, but like, honestly, I've gotten to the point where I feel like, I don't know, unless you got some insider info, like you seem to have, the good doctor, I can't keep up with it.
Those are the big winners. Some other highlights, of course, Asteroid City, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is Martin Scorsese's latest film, which we talked about the trailer.
8 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some other films we might see a little bit more of. The English language stuff didn't actually do very, very well. A lot of films in German happening this year. But those are the big winners to be aware of.
No place for fast acts at Cannes, huh? Nobody wants to talk about the U.S.'s seminal masterpiece, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, from 2023. Nobody's talking about that over there. Shame. No, I think that's rad. This is Bold Cinema stuff. Like, if you haven't listened to the podcast for a long time, this is the kind of stuff Andy and I really like talking about, because it's weird and it makes us feel funny things. And like, that's what cinema's all about, baby. So keep it on off script for more from Cannes. But for now, we need to get to the goods. We got to talk about this movie. Andy, you picked this one out. I don't think I'd even really heard about it. And I was pleased at what came out of this. You want to take it away?
Reality. So this movie just came out on like Monday night. It came out very, very late. This is a movie about reality winner who was an NSA whistleblower who leaked some documents about Russian interference with the 2016 election. She was caught in jail, sentenced to 5 years. She served 4, and it is out on probation now. But this is the story about her. And what's interesting is the way they tell this story is through FBI recordings, because when they went to her house with a search warrant and they interrogated her, interviewed her, and they were recording the whole time. So they have about 2 hours worth of audio, and the entire script is just that audio, and it's Sydney Sweeney as Reality Winner, and then just a handful of other people, 2 other agents, Agent Garrick played by Josh Hamilton, and Agent Taylor played by Mershant Davis. So it's almost like a play, because there's basically 3 people talking the whole time, and it's really mostly Josh Hamilton and Sydney Sweeney, and it's one of the most uncomfortable movies I've ever seen, because like these are police, like they're FBI, and they just kind of show up as Reality gets home, and she's like trying to take groceries in, and they're like, "Hey, we're here, FBI, with a search warrant." And most people they would freak out about this, and she doesn't, and she just tries to be nice and cooperate. It's one of those things like when you know you're in trouble, and if you think if you're just real nice, it'll go away. But it's so uncomfortable because they also try to be friendly, try to make small talk, but then there's really jarring things when at one point Reality goes to her car to take out her groceries, and one of the agents like just dives in front of the door and is like, go, what are you doing? Go, like, get back. Like, so they jump back and forth between being like really friendly and then like acting like the police that they are. And there's just, the conversation is so uncomfortable. You know, they're asking, are there any weapons in the house? Is there anyone in the house? I mean, it's like she could be a big crime lord, and they're trying to get to what happened and if she released these documents and how she did that. So that's kind of our setup. It's a really interesting way of shooting a movie, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. Zach, what'd you think?
So I was really charmed by this movie. I think it's a lot of fun, actually. I think it is a bummer it won't get like a wider audience, I don't think, because it's a little too niche. And like at times it almost borders on experimental, which I really didn't expect. Like I didn't know what to get into. Andy said, "Hey, it's 85 minutes. You want to watch it for the podcast?" I was like, "Absolutely." That's not to listen. I need to say this. That's not because we're a fan of short movies here on the show. It's that movies nowadays are so damn long. Like every week we've been doing a feature this summer. Every movie's like 2+ hours. It's just the way it is now. Start checking your local movie times. Like movies are getting longer. So it's really refreshing. Like when something comes out that's like short, biting, like you know it's going to be something cool because it's on HBO. It's got an up and coming star, Sydney Sweeney, coming hot off the heels of Euphoria. Like I don't know, like it might be neat, and it turns out it is. The movie's directed by Tina Satter, who is a first-time director. You look up her IMDb, she's got this, and she was a guest once on Seth, what's his name? The guy, Late Night with Seth Meyers podcast. That's it. That's all she's done. I know it's based on a play, which is based on the actual situation that happened to Reality Winner, and the play has the same gag. It is exactly the transcript. This is word for word what happened. This is what we've got, and a physical recreation of it. But what's cool about this movie, well, on the one hand, it sounds like, okay, so NSA whistleblower shows up at our house, and the FBI shows up and says, "Hey, we got questions, right? What does that mean?" Well, what's neat is this movie isn't presented as like Reality Winner is somebody who's done something wrong. It's presented as like almost a hostage negotiation. Like, what do you do when you get home one day and the FBI is at your house and they're just letting themselves in? And they're like, no, stay there. You're not going anywhere. And they're friendly, but like, you're not going anywhere. It's like being held hostage. It's like being kidnapped, like right outside your own home. And there's nothing you can do because it's like fundamentally the power of the government of the country you're in. It presents this really interesting mental game that you're playing, right? Because we know that Reality Winner obviously is a character who's been in the news, who may have served some time for things that she's done, but a lot of people like aren't really familiar with the story. So to get the verbatim situation as it happened, with a cast of characters who are really finely directed from Tina Satter, I can't wait to see what she does next. This girl needs a limited series or something. Like, she's good. They present this story that's like surprisingly engaging in like a very tight timeline. And it's a lot of fun. Like I really liked Reality. It's really not a bad feature. Let's get into it, Andy. Where do you want to start talking about it?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the script. And like I said, it's all based on the audio, the 2 hours of audio or so that they have while they're searching her house and she's being interrogated during that whole time. And they kind of keep this interesting by they kind of switch between you hear a recording the actual recording, then you'll see like the script, the like transcript itself sometimes, and then you get into the actual actors in the movie. So it kind of cycles between these three shots, and it keeps kind of reminding you like, oh, this is like word for word what happened on that day, and what they had. And I just thought that was a really interesting kind of approach and kept it really fresh. And there's also parts that are redacted, like, it'll be showing you the transcript, and all of a sudden the audio cuts out and it's all black. Same things with on screen when anything's redacted, you kind of get, it almost looks like a glitch, because they're not telling you whatever was redacted. So that's something that I thought was really interesting and effective.
Yeah, the redacted segments are the bits that feel like experimental in tone, because they're so great. Like, it's not like the film just jump cuts to the next part of a segment where we're not going to hear what the FBI agents were talking about or what Reality Winner said. Like, it hits you with this like weird tech music sting that's real low, real bassy, and then it just hangs. And like the movie just hangs in silence for a minute, and then it just comes back and just continues where it left off. And it does it a few times, and it's really jarring, and it's a very clever meta reminder that what you're watching is not only real, but like we still don't know. The American people are still not aware of what exactly was said in these moments. Nobody knows. Like, they're redacted. Nobody's going to find out. Like, so we have like functionally an incomplete version of events told in the most complete way possible that very, very quickly like narrows down to a person who is guilty for something that like we have most of the evidence for, right? Like, we're told is the correct way, but I love the way it pushes the boundaries of its titular reality, like both because of her very interesting name, but also because of like questioning what is really understood versus what is perceived. And I think that's really charming, like for a short feature to hit really fast. And a big part of the reason that's possible is because of performances. Like, man, Sydney Sweeney is excellent in this. She's really good as this person who's really meek and backed into a corner, but you can never really get a read on like whether or not she's knows something or doesn't, and you're not really sure where things are going to go. And that plays great opposite. What is his name? Marchant Davis is one of the FBI agents, and more importantly, Josh Hamilton, who is super good in this movie. Josh Hamilton, I couldn't remember where I'd seen him from. He's the dad in 8th grade. He plays outside. He plays the other side of Ellie Fisher. They got that great scene at the end of the movie where she comes in. She's like, "Hey, if I had me as a daughter, like I wouldn't want her around." And he's like, "Whoa, like what are you talking about?" Like really sincere and like really great. And that plays really great with these two FBI agents when you can't really get a read on whether or not they know or not, like that she's guilty, what they do and don't know. Like they don't really offer information to her very quickly. So she has to slowly kind of inch it. Like, what are you guys here for? Why do you have a warrant? What are you trying to get at? Like it's this odd cat and mouse game, with like a surprisingly satisfying pace.
Yeah, I was actually really frustrated with them talking with her because, again, they act like they're your friend, and they're not. The police are not your friend. Everyone remember that. They
you heard it on off script, folks. Yeah,
heard it off script.
Yeah,
because they keep, they're like, you just made a mistake. We know you just made it. You're not a Snowden. They kept saying that. They're like, she's like, I'm not trying to be.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not trying to be a whistleblower. I'm trying to. She's trying to advance her career within intelligence. Reality Winner was a linguist. She knew several Middle Eastern languages and was a translator. And she was trying to get kind of deployed to that area. So she was trying to kind of increase her involvement in the government, but they kind of tease him. They're like, "Oh no, we know you're not a bad person. We know you just made a mistake, and you're not Edward Snowden." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not trying to be Edward Snowden." And I was so frustrated with this because they basically get her to confess, and while they do have a lot of evidence, they don't have all the evidence. But she basically just is like, "Yes, I did it. Yes, I printed this out. Yes, I sent it to a news source." And she should have just shut up and asked for a lawyer right away. But she doesn't, and they very slowly kind of coerce her into talking more and more. And Sydney Sweeney does this great performance where she basically breaks down, but it takes 90 minutes to do so. Like by the end, she's like, in tears and like kind of crying through her words, but it happens so slowly, like she just slowly. It's like it's agonizing, but it's so effective.
There's this great story from the set of American Psycho, a Christian Bale movie, when Willem Dafoe's character, who is an investigator pursuing like this series of crimes that have been happening in Manhattan, which all lead back to Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale's character. He's questioning Christian Bale's Patrick Bateman. And during the scene, the director, I forget her name, told Dafoe, "Hey, you're going to give me 3 different reads of this scene. We're going to record it 3 times, and you're going to give me one where you don't know if Patrick Bateman's your guy. So it's a friendly conversation, right? You're going to give me one where like you think it's him, but you're not sure. So it's friendly, but like a bit more conniving. And then you're going to give me one where like you just came from the station, it's him for sure. So like you're nailing to a wall, right? And then when they cut the movie, they used all of those takes in random order functionally, like to get this really like scene where you can't get a read on like the investigator's intention. And they seem like they're all over the place. And this movie is that for 83 minutes. And Andy's right. Like, I don't know how Sydney Sweeney turns up on set and shoots a feature and keeps that emotion continuing to climb for the whole feature. Like, it's really something else. Like, it's a really charming character play. Like, it's a surprisingly engaging script that comes right off the page of a very real situation. Like, I can't believe how much I liked it. It's really simple, but like, dude, sometimes simple is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think Reality like might be one of those features. It's really charming. Like, really not a bad time.
Yeah, like I said, as frustrated as I was by the FBI agents and how they treat her and kind of coerce her at the same time, it was very effective because they get her talking. You know, they asked her about, you know, did you ever print anything out? Or, you know, they ask her a lot of really vague questions, and then they hold all their cards very close, you know, and she keeps trying to like kind of talk her way out of it, or trying to, you know, if I'm just nice and cooperate, they'll leave and it'll be fine. But it doesn't go that way. And, but yeah, really effective. And like you said, she's slowly breaking down and realizing that she's like more and more trouble. Cause you know, at first it just seems like they're going to maybe do a search and leave. And like, you know, but the FBI agents know like she's getting arrested at the end of this.
Yeah, it's very conniving in that way. Like this, yeah. Like I really would liken it more like a hostage situation. Like, because she's not. Where's she gonna go? Like, what's she gonna do? Who could she call? Like to help her out of these 2 people who are just at her house, and there's like more guys show up and black SUVs show up for people to get out and search her home. And she's just trying to like keep track of her dog and her cat. And it's just like, well, hold on a second. Like, let me get my life together here. It's very menacing, and like I'm surprised at how well that gets pulled off. In like, yeah, a short feature, like shorter than what was expected to be feature length. It's good stuff, man. Like, Reality is not a bad time. Are you ready for recommendations? Any other thoughts?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Reality?
Yeah, I would. It's a nice short little bottle film, 85 minutes. Really strong performances, and if you're into like politics and particularly things like spycraft, which that's always what gets me, is that the kind of, you know, kind of cloak and dagger stuff, that how it really happens. And it's just really interesting how this unfolded. And you know, Reality, you know, she gets caught essentially, but her explaining her motivations are very interesting behind this, because she wasn't someone who normally is a whistleblower. Like I said, she was trying to get more involved in her government. She was trying to get, you know, she was ex-military. She was trying to get redeployed, go out to the Middle East. And so it's not the kind of person who would usually do something like this. But I really enjoyed it. It's a quick watch, and it's on Max, the place to go for HBO.
Yes, it is on Max. Would recommend. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, actually. If you're just looking for something, like, this is the kind of thing you can just throw on, like, if you just need a little something, right? You got a little less than 2 hours. You want to watch something kind of different. You're cruising YouTube and you're bored with all the same video essays, and you're like, I want something, you know, something a little tasty. Like, go check out Reality on Max. Like, it's not a bad time. I wish it would get a bit of a wider audience. I get why it won't. Like, there are parts that are almost experimental. Like, but I think it's surprisingly well put together. I want to see what Tina Satter's doing next. I want to keep up with Sydney Sweeney and, of course, Josh Hamilton. And that is reality. And that's our show, episode 216, Andy. Another one in the bag. What are we watching next week? Look at that. How'd we do it? Yeah.
Well, we're swinging into the spider season, the summer season with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Very similar titles. Try not to get them confused.
I know.
Across the Spider-Verse is the new one. Into the Spider-Verse was one of my favorite films of that year. I think it was number 2 on my top 10 list in 2017, 2018. The long-awaited sequel is finally here, and I'm super excited about it, and that's what we're going to be getting into next week, and we're going to see what else, TBA.
Yeah, we'll find something. I'm excited about Spider-Man. I'm not excited about the length. It's over 2 hours long. But for what it's worth, that is a big animated feature, and I've heard nothing but fire about it. Everybody says it's great. Everybody says that movie's fun. Can't wait. Already got my tickets. It's going to be a good time. If you enjoyed the show today, if you want to know more about reality, or maybe you have some hot takes on our hot takes on the Little Mermaid, lukewarm take from me. It's not a great take. If you got any stories about Con or want to hear more about features we've talked about here on the show, the best way to do that is you can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com. You can check us out on Facebook, where we live stream the show every single Tuesday, except for Wednesday this week, because, stuff comes up. We are over there right around 5 p.m. Central, usually on Tuesdays. You can check out our Twitter and Instagram, where we post updates from the show, things we got going on. We're on YouTube. Do lots of cool things happen on YouTube. Gotta come check out the YouTube channel. Great things happening over there. And of course, you can get the podcast for your ears via iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartMedia, all the usual places you get your podcast. You might have been listening there right now. And if you are listening there and you want to do us a solid, drop us a rating and review while you're over there, huh? Just slide over to your store page, relevant platform. We'll find it. We'll get to it. And, let us know what you thought of the show. 5 stars if you can swing it. I'd suggest less, but who would, right? No half measures here on Off Script. That doesn't mean anything. I should wrap this up. Anyway, from all of us at Off Script, you can email us correspondence, mail at offscriptfilmreview.com. From all of us at Off Script, the home of bold cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.